Hi, thank you for joining us once again. This is WareGames, and we are doing an ASMR guided journey through our small village here in the game Banished. It's the beginning of our 4th year. We'll just quickly walk through the village and see what's here. On the far end of town, we have a gathering hut. They're going to be bringing in things like mushrooms and onions to feed the people. We have a pasture, which is almost full now of sheep. We have our fishing docks and our fields. The center of town where most people live. We have a small apiary, a blacksmith, and a woodcutter. And then up on this end of town we have our forester's hut and our new herbalist and another gathering hut, as we try to make sure that we have enough food for everyone to make it through the year once again. And so we begin our 4th year as spring has come. We've continued to add new houses so that we can expand our population. We're finding that we're running a bit low on things like iron, and so we've sent our gatherers out to collect things like iron and stone, and we wait for our trees to start coming back as our forester's been planting them. We're just building the one building right now. Last year we put in a fair number of buildings, a lot of buildings. This year, not so many. At least not so far. And for now we concentrate on gathering and producing, bringing more things in. Sometimes you have to stop or slow down and let your strength gather up, let your energy gather up. We can't just constantly use everything we have all the time. That path leads to exhaustion and being tired and not being your best. Not being able to be your best, really. We certainly don't have to be at our best all the time, but it's not healthy to never be. And so, there's no rush for these people. They'll take their time. You can watch the woodcutter slowly chopping the logs, creating firewood for the people that will gather up to use when the temperature's cold, and save some up for next winter. And our crops are being planted for next year. Our squash field being planted. We can even look in our storage barn and see what we've accomplished. Our beans were brought in by our farmers. These berries were brought in by our gathering hut. The honey came from the apiary, of course. The onions, the potato, the mushroom, all of those came in. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not a squash field at all, this is a potato field. Potatoes came in from the potato field. And now we need someone to build for us. Fireplaces are still burning, temperature's starting to go up. Spring has arrived. Our pasture's full, we'll need to add another pasture. perhaps this time we'll add a square pasture. Needs a lot of logs to build a pasture. We'll have to replace some of the logs we're going to use. Good thing we've got a storage facility right here. Got quite a few logs in it already. When we're ready to build, it won't take long. A few new children have been born. 3 so far this year. We have 9 students in our school. Another house built. Now we'll let our workers concentrate on finishing the pasture. It's interesting for me to play through the game at this speed, because as I've started doing this, I've realized that I normally play this game at a much faster pace, but there's something quite freeing about playing it slowly and playing it calmly. It's a very different experience. We're not just rushing to get to the ending, we're not flipping to the back of the book to find out how things turned out. We're taking our time and we're gaining the experience of having done this. And I think that's pretty wonderful. And hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am. Our fields are now planted. Almost all the way, but not quite yet. Potatoes come a bit later in the year. We have another storage barn here. It's mostly filled with fish and some wool. That will be another goal for us, perhaps this year. Once our pasture is in, it would be to start creating coats. And to do that, we're going to need a tailor. So we'll build one. We'll take care of things. That's what we do here. We won't shy away from the challenge. We will simply make it happen. More children being born this year in the late spring. I think that's 5 for this year already. They'll all be heading to the school in a few years. I think in our game, every calendar year is about 2 years for the people. So we can test that. This child was born either winter or spring this year and is 0 still, so we'll know if by the end of the year, for instance, they're 2, we'll know. And there's another baby being born in this house. We haven't checked in on our houses for a while. See what kind of names and who's living in there. Analian and Amari and Mari. Almost Anne-Marie, I guess. This house has quite a few people living in it. 2 children and 2 students. And this tells me we probably need a few more houses to make sure everyone's got some space and that the families have a chance to grow. which they won't do if they're all living in the same house. Almost all the logs have been delivered to our pasture now. This is the time of year where it's a little trickier to get a lot of work done because everybody's busy bringing in the food. So construction isn't our #1 job right now. But still, they will try to get things done. This particular sheep has decided to live outside of the pasture. Oh, there he goes. He's back in now. And the builders have come to begin work on the pasture proper. It's tempting to start setting up more buildings that we want built. Another house, another tailor, or a tailor. But what we don't want to do is pile up too much on the plate all at once. It's not helping anybody for us to do that. This is very interesting. Look, because we built our pasture on the side of the hill, building the barn for our pasture is actually floating in midair. Pretty cool. I wish I could float in midair. Though I guess I can. Play the right game or have the right dream. It's almost halfway complete now. And then we'll have this nice little field in between. Deer are standing around in the woods. And the woods go on for some time. There's a lot of places in the map that we haven't even dreamed of going yet. These two wonderful lakes that are side by side, they're quite nice looking, I think. Even over here on the other side of the river, there's another lake, another giant lake over here. I think the land's starting to show a little bit of our overuse of it in some areas. I like that our forest is starting to grow back in over here, that we're not overusing that. And on it goes. We continue to build. Our pasture grows closer to completion. Our woodcutter continues to make sure that there's enough firewood for everyone. More children being born all the time. To be careful not to grow too quickly, or we'll run out of food, and then we'll have to add more fields, and then we'll have to add more people to work the fields, and you can see how this sort of thing continues. Our next pasture is just about done. And the deer have come to walk through it. We'll also make this a sheep pasture, and we'll split. We'll take half the sheep here and move them over to our new field. And I think it's time for us to add our tailor. This strikes me as a good place to put it, close to the fields, close to the barns. Now, this is a new tool I haven't worked with before. It's used to flatten the land out. I'm not sure I like that. It's added a bit of odd flatness to things. But we will see what happens. And there our sheep are slowly moving over to their new home. So now we have, instead of 18 sheep total and room for 18 sheep, now we have 18 sheep and room for almost 40 sheep. I think at some point over here we will have a trading post when we feel that we have enough food and items, enough excess, that we can use it to trade for the things that we want. But we won't spend most of our time trying to just gain and get ahead and get money and that kind of thing. It's too easy to fall into that trap of just trying to get more of things we don't need for our people. Last year, food was a big concern at the beginning of the year. We were almost out. This year, we have plenty of food. We have enough food to feed everyone for another year. And so we worry less about our food input this year. We'll have to make sure we've got enough stone to finish our building, so we can tell our gatherers to also collect more of the stone. We're just going to get rid of these little crosses. Sorry, they're not crosses, they're axes and picks together. But we will get rid of those so that they don't make our land look funnier than it already does. And now we're able to build a road almost all the way through. That was our goal here, was to try to give us access towards the river. And we've managed to find enough stone. Any stone we bring in after this will be used to add to our supplies once again. And we simply wait on a tiny bit more of iron. We've got some new, sorry, I didn't mean to gasp there. We've got some new laborers coming in, which is good, because we're going to need a tailor soon. And let's see if we can flatten out our land once again. I think part of our problem is that our resources are still there, which is why I won't let us do that just yet. And that's okay. We'll just remove all those first. And there we go. Now all of our materials are here to help us build our tailor, and so we'll do that. Then we can create coats for everyone. And it's autumn already. We've brought in our crops for the year and turn our farmers onto other tasks to help us make sure that we've got things collected for next year. that we're gathering, that we're making sure that we have the things we need. We have more children than we have students now, so that will mean at some point we will have a lot of students. That's a good thing. Some of our workers must be getting to the point where they're getting a bit older. Lots of 20, there's some 30-year-olds. By this game standards, those people are the oldest people right now. And so, our tailor is just about complete. We can see both of our pastures. We have 9 in this field and 11 in this field now. And they are coming in, growing more sheep, having more sheep, I guess. And we've got a decent amount of wool in both of our storage barns. And the people have come to clear out the items here that we've asked them to remove. So that we can flatten our land out. We have a number of extra workers now. Their children keep graduating. Alright, let's see if we can flatten our hill down now. Look at that. It's like magic. And that's done. We've done it. We've made a nice flat area that we can put a road through. The ability to do that, to start flattening things, was created by one of the players of the game, as opposed to the people who made the game, which I think is pretty neat. They saw a need for something that the game didn't do, and with the allowance of the people who make the game, they were able to add that in. Pretty cool. Let's see if we can finish our road now. For some reason it doesn't want us to build on one of these little squares right here, but that's okay. It must have its reasons. It's pretty flat there, so if not, we'll just go around. Oh, there we go. Our town starts to take on a slightly different shape. And look at that, our tailoring building is done. So we'll set someone to work there, and we'll tell them, make wool coats, please. We have 10 and 12 sheep now. As those pastures become full, we also get some mutton from there. Although our goal here isn't to chop up a bunch of animals or anything. Might be useful to use our little tool to get one of these hills to flatten down for us. So we'll tell our people to get rid of a few of those trees so that we can do that. At some point we're going to want to explore across the other side of that mountain. And while I don't really relish the idea of tearing the entire mountain down, I think it's okay for us to make a little path through. Our gathering hut is over here, still working away. I think the next thing we're going to need to build is another forester's lodge over here. Just so things aren't getting too barren, that we're not taking everything away from Mother Nature. Don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past. Looks like the deer are all migrating somewhere. Over here, maybe. They're tired of us chopping the hills up and have gone off on their own. Well, our tailor now has some wool. It will be interesting to see how quickly we get some coats. I'm tempted to put in another house over on this side. Give our herdsmen or herdswomen, the folks that work in the pasture and the tailor, places to live that are closer to their house. We have enough material in stock already for both, so that's kind of nice. It's nice that the area was already flat. There was no need to chop any trees down or anything, and so it's just a matter of bringing materials over and then building. Foundation for one of the two houses. It's very quick. We've done a good job managing our resources. We still have lots of stone and logs around. Haven't chased off all the deer yet. And we're slowly coming to the end of year number 4. Our food supplies are in great shape. We have coats. You can see we now have 17 wool coats, which will help our people not get as cold in the winter. We have a number of tools. We have firewood. For some reason our herbalists have not brought us a lot of herbs yet, but that's all right. It's that time of year where our snow is falling. It's a good time of year when you're not standing in the middle of it. Look, some more coats just came into being placed on the racks outside of the tailors. Someone's just dropped off some more wool for our tailor. Who's that fellow? Oops. Got away from me. Now it's late winter. Is that our tailor? That is our tailor. Tailor's name is Laura. L-O-R-A. He's a male. Very happy, very healthy. He's educated. He's got good clothes. Where does he live? He lives over here. Oh, he's married to the beekeeper. Well, there we go. We've got quite a few wonderful things built in this calendar year. The only thing left is we decided very late in the year to put in a forester's lodge. And so that will take a little while to build yet. And that we are preparing to find a way through this mountain. But our gatherers have not cleared that yet, and so that's okay too. What a wonderful looking town. We've got some nice roads going all the way through town, from the river to the lake. Something nice about that. Well, hopefully you're enjoying the progression, the feeling of accomplishment, watching our little town grow from nothing to something. And we've reached the end of year 4 and have begun spring of year 5. And so that is where we will say goodbye and come back. And hopefully together we will explore the 5th year. Thanks for joining me.